Guys, Eve good here, and well, this is a surprise. For those who don't know, Rovio Entertainment has been in talks to be sold for quite a while. Rovio Entertainment is obviously the studio behind Angry Birds, and it looks like they may have found a bidder in Sega. Now, obviously, I spoke about this a while ago that Playtika actually backed out of the deal to buy Rovio for $800 million, but Sega's has reported offering $1 billion for Angry Birds. Let's look at this. So, Sega was reportedly close to buying Rovio Entertainment, the company that owns the Angry Birds mobile game franchise, for a whopping $1 billion. According to the Wall Street Journal, Sega may lock in the big deal by early next week, according to people speaking with Wall Street Journal. Surprising to think that Sega, specifically its parent company, Sega Sammy Holdings, would want to spend so much on Rovio given the decline in popularity of Angry Birds games. The original game was a smash success in 2009, but the franchise has seemingly fallen off since its 2014 peaked, when Rovio reported falling profits and layoffs. In 2016, Rovio tried a movie adaptation, the Angry Birds movie, which was a box office success and is still the seventh highest grossing video game movie, even if reviews weren't kind. Its 2019 sequel, The Angry Birds Movie 2, did not achieve the same success Rovio watched, as competitors like Candy Crush grew more and more, eating away interest in Angry Birds. Well, let me just point something out. Yes, Rovio's revenue is declining. Yes, Rovio isn't as big as they once were, and Angry Birds is not as popular as it once was. But there's quite an obvious thing here that people aren't addressing, and that's the fact that Rovio complements Sega in a way which people don't seem to understand. Sega, for those who don't know, is a major publisher. Well, not really a major publisher, but they're quite a big publisher on console and PC. They weren't big on PC back when they first started making PC games. They had to buy up some studios who were obviously quite well known in the PC space, like Rovio Entertainment and Amplitude. But then, flash forward today, their mobile output, they barely have anything on mobile, and mobile is the biggest game platform by revenue because as basically everyone on the planet has a smartphone. So it just kind of seems like to me it makes sense for Sega to spend so much money on Rovio, despite profits declining, despite interest in Angry Birds waning. Sega basically wants to be there in mobile. They want to have their King. They want to have their Zynga. Stuff that Take Two and Activision already have. So the best way to do it is to buy it as someone that people know, even if that studio or publisher is struggling to keep up. Especially when you consider if you look at the financials of Sega, Sega Sammy Corporation is doing really well in revenue and in profits, so they don't really need to worry about Rovio bringing in so many profits to begin with. But obviously, over time, hopefully the games will start making some money, and obviously, yeah. Right, let's have a look. Perhaps Sega has dreams of launching Angry Birds into the night. Recently, Rovio removed its original Angry Birds game from the Google Play Store and its renamed iOS version, to Red's First Flight. That, to me, was a terrible move. I hate that Rovio did that. Yeah. New was seemingly to move players over to its lucrative freemium sequels and obscure the buy once and play forever business model of the original game. Rovio previously needed an $800 million deal for the Israel developer Playtika to take over, but those talks officially dwindled in March. Now Sega might soon own the Finland-based Angry Birds company instead. Rovio's original Angry Birds game was the first mobile game to reach 1 billion downloads, a record certified by Guinness World Records, in fact, and Rovio claimed its combined library of games had reached 5 billion downloads as of last year. So maybe there's an argument for the company to value a company valued at a fifth of a dollar per download. Remember that time Take-Two bought social game studio Zynga for 12.7 billion. Maybe Sega's got a new set of heroes on par with Sonic and Friends, just waiting for an epic mobile game franchise to prepare them. Right. Once again, they bring up this is bringing up the Take-Two Zynga deal. I agree that was quite a big deal. Yeah, obviously part of the deal was for like Farmville. Farmville was not as popular as it is now, or popular now as it was back in the day when it was on Facebook, but it's still a popular game franchise. Angry Birds is quite well known. No matter where you go, people know what Angry Birds is. It's just not as relevant as it once was. And to be honest, Sega's paying $1 billion for Rovio. Right, $1 billion isn't much when coming to game acquisitions. We see deals like the Activision Blizzard deal for like $68 billion. We see deals like the Zynga deal for 12.7 billion. We see Bungie get bought for $3.4 billion. We see billions thrown around in gaming all the time for talent and studios and IPs. And to me, I feel like this isn't about necessarily uh, necessarily owning a franchise. It's about actually being in the mobile space. Because if you look at Sega's output on iOS and Android, it's mostly stuff related to Sonic, stuff like Sonic Dash, These aren't huge games, or like Sega Classics, also known as Sega Forever, where they've re-released some Mega Drive, and I think it's Mega Drive and a few Dreamcast games. I think there's like 30 of them on mobile phones for free with ads. Right, those games. I'm not saying anything. There's nothing bad about those games, but Sega's not a major player on mobile, and yeah, neither's Rovio. But I got to admit, I feel like if you look at it logically, Sega Sammy Corporation can use its huge, vast wealth from its pachinko operations, its arcade operations, its operations of selling games on like PC and console. Remember, they own stuff like Atlas, Yakuza, Sonic the Hedgehog, which has 1.5 billion sales across its entire franchise. There's a lot of stuff that Sega owns, and obviously their merchandise obviously got stuff like the Sonic movies. They've got tons of money coming in from all their different endeavors, and Rovio to me seems like it was a perfect fit because Rovio was never big on console. They were never big on PC. They were only really a mobile developer. So Sega never really had a mobile developer. So for Sega to take on Rovio, who's a known name in gaming and has stuff like Angry Birds, it could be a huge game changer for Sega and Rovio in a lot of ways. But more so, in fact, Sega in a lot of people's eyes can actually save Rovio. Consideration that Rovio has gotten a bad reputation over the past few years for delisting Angry Birds games and burning the fans. Ironically, the company whose first name is the Finnish word for bonfire likes to burn their fans, which is pretty ironic. Well, people want Sega to basically come back and basically re-release the original Angry Birds games. I'm all for this. I want this as well. I'm not against such an idea. I want Sega to bring these games back just so they're preserved, just so people can play them on modern devices. And not being funny, I feel like Sega would fund that. I feel like Sega would put the money behind it to get Angry Birds Space back, Angry Birds Epic, Angry Birds, the original Angry Birds. There's just so many Angry Birds games that are kind of lost now because Rovio wanted to make more money, and they didn't really bother updating the engine, keeping the classic games, which people first became fans of Rovio because of. Yeah, to me, it just kind of feels like Sega needs to do something, and Sega stepping in is probably the best company to do so because Sega knows about game history. They seem to respect their fans. They hired people who makes Sega fan games to work for Sega. It just makes sense, and Sega could honestly, in my opinion, save Rovio from themselves and their terrible leadership, their terrible management, who have just basically destroyed a company whilst trying to chase profits. Anyway, guys, I'll leave this article in the link in the description down below. Let me know your thoughts about this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you want Sega to buy Rovio? Do you not want Sega to buy Rovio? Let me explain why in the comments down below. Yeah, I've been Eve Kane. I'm signing out. Peace.